Hello and welcome, everyone. This is Darius Barzanda. You're tuning in to what I consider to be one of the most special sessions of the season, and that is we've got Jarrad Hewett live plugging in with us today, and it is really cool. We've even have some beautiful guests from several other shows that have come in just because of the importance of what's going on in the world, in humanity. They've come in to listen to this special broadcast as well, so we've got a lot of community members from a lot of different places coming into the U-Wealth umbrella of love, and we're going to be talking today with Jarrad about becoming your multidimensional self and experiencing the thrill of limitless living, and most importantly, kind of getting an update of what it really means to be in your own personal sovereignty, to be in your own personal space of love, power, and truth, and having all the wisdom and all the information and access to everything that the universe has to provide, this intelligent energy that can flow through to you when you actually turn that on. And the two ways that Jarrad has been doing this for people, it's actually quite revolutionary, on the cutting edge. I call this, for those of you maybe that aren't familiar, the next wave of energy transformation, the next wave of energy and spirit healing. Because what we're getting now, and this is just a brief update, because I deal with this day in, day out, interviewing probably a couple hundred of the cutting-edge healers, teachers, and masters every year. But what we're getting from some of the newest wave of teachers is exactly what Jarrad is doing right now, which is these God light symbols. These are symbols that are being fed into humanity, into our ecosystem, into our energetic ecosystem, to massively transform at a fast rate and on a mass scale. Those two things are really important based on what we're seeing in the planet, meaning that we are being called to transform and transmute beyond our limitations very quickly. And also, it's not just one person transforming, but mass groups. The second thing is we're also being called to move back into our own sovereign frequency, meaning that we have our own blueprint, our own frequency, our own pattern that allows us to create. It's like a snowflake, right? A snowflake is never the same. It's absolutely inexorably unique. But that fingerprint, that vibrational fingerprint that we put into the world, into the planet, is what allows us to draw in our truth, our light, and our power. When we don't actually know what that is, or we displace that, which we're going to talk about with Jarrad, for other things, and we'll share how that's happening to humanity right now, we lose our power. And then we are not able to truly live in our truth, and we may even get sick. Because we bring in energy that's not ours, and we feel frustrated and not allowing that innate intelligence to run. Well, our guest today is Jarrad Hewett. I'm going to move fast to get him on and get this moving. We're going to help a lot of people. We're going to show you what it's like to channel. We're going to do some 5D energy experiences. We're going to show you how to step outside of time. We're going to actually explain what your signature is, your energetic signature, what your God light symbol may be, and why it's coming into humanity at this time, and what your language of light may tell about you and your truth and your destiny, and how it may be a radical acceleration of all of your self-growth and personal development and energetic transformation aspirations, all immediately coming in very quickly through this source. Now, our guest, as I said, is Jarrad Hewett, best-selling author of the book Love, Life, God, The Journey of Creation, as well as co-author of the #1 international best-selling Big E, Everything is Energy. And his new book, The Gospel of You, have done incredibly well and are available now. And his in-depth energy work have led to best-selling books, regular radio show appearances, and a devoted client list featuring some of the biggest, most well-known names in self-help and spiritual movements. And Jarrad's going to be showing us all of this, and also we'll get into the idea of matrices, Pleiadians, even aliens, mediumship, and past and present lives. And we're going to help you one-on-one. So do this. Press star 2 to raise your hand. We're going to jump right in with our amazing guest, Jarrad Hewett. And let me just find Jarrad. We got hundreds of people with their hands raised. There you are. Jarrad, welcome back to you, my friend.
Hey, thanks, Darius. Thanks for having me on. I was taking notes while we were talking this. We were talking right before the call. Like a massive download of energy came in, and so everybody that's on the call today and everybody that is listening, doesn't matter where in time or space you are, time and space, or they're relative, as Einstein pointed out, but it's relative in a way that even science and quantum physics are just beginning to understand exactly what that means. So wherever you are, whenever you are, we're going to be doing a lot of work today, and we're going to be experiencing what it is to really create your own timeline. That was something that just popped in right as you began talking. We have these experiences where we're able to, in any given moment, choose, I'll put it in just the left hand or the right hand. We can go left or we can go right. Well, if we choose in that moment to go left, once we make that choice, new choices open up from that space where, again, we can go left or right or even straight, or we have the opportunity sometimes to, turn around and there's more doors behind us. And so every single choice we make, every single potential for choice that we've ever experienced, even if we didn't know there was a potential to create something, all of that exists within the multiverse. All of that exists within this massive hologram. And so within that multiverse, within that massive expansion of what it is to be human, within that massive sort of experience of source as the individualized self, all potentials are made reality. And so one of the things we're going to be talking about today is how to tune into and how to really create the potential and the timeline that you desire. So oftentimes we think that conscious creation, we kind of get it confused, and we think that it's about imposing our will upon the world, right? It's about us creating who and what we are through the imposition of our will, or through, if I just want it strong enough. And what we tune into and kind of get locked into when we think in those terms or act in those terms is that we start buying into, okay, reality is set, and I am the force. Me is the ego present. I am the force that begins to change what is the ultimate reality. And what we're missing in that equation is the higher perception, which is that ultimate reality is not the ultimate reality. It is the projection from within inside. And so oftentimes we think of ourselves as needing to, exert our will to change the outside. And there is a much simpler and broader perspective where if we step inside to ourselves, a space where a lot of us are very uncomfortable because we have wounds, it brings up feelings, it presses all of our buttons, and we're going to talk about what some of those buttons are around our powers of fear, around our powers of our fears of retribution, our fears of everything, and even the way it kind of came out a minute ago. There is a power that our ego draws from our own fear. And so that was one of the reasons, for those of you that joined us in our big primetime event last week, that we sent out Fear Clear. Yeah, because when we can begin to let go of the fear, we can begin to shift that paradigm and shift that pattern so that we realize, I don't have to exert my force and exert my own limited understanding of the universe. I don't have to push that out and try to exert that will upon the world to force that change. I can go within and begin through self-examination. I can begin to restructure my own beliefs and restructure what it is and who I am, and really tune in and tap into who I am and an unlimited potential. And the world actually begins to shift itself. It's kind of a mechanism by which, as we change the inner, the outer begins to respond. Everything outside of us is a mirror to something inside of us. And so if we don't change that harmonic vibration that's within us, we will find ourselves continually pushing against a loop or a pattern that basically goes on repeat in our consciousness and throughout our physical experienced world. So one of the things we're going to be doing today is really lifting up some of those patterns so that we can know ourselves. It's when I talk about the Arcturians. The Arcturian energy, I know we're getting in really quickly and we'll kind of back up in a second, but I want to get the channeled information out as it's coming in. The Arcturian information is, if you think in terms of dimensional awareness and expansion experience, the sort of second, third dimensions are, even the first dimensional sort of construct of consciousness is where people were at the sort of founding of evolution. It's what a lot of people consider, within science, they call it the reptilian brain. It's the fight or flight mechanism that we all have somewhere encoded within the body, and we're going to begin shifting and changing and working with that today as well. So that reptilian brain represents, and what I mean by that reptilian, it's like snake. It's very base, where there's the only emotions, the only feelings, the only presence there is fight or flight. Their survival is the base instinct. And so from that place, that is sort of first, second dimensional realities. Third dimensional realities bring into that a little bit more of the brain. We start to awaken to that we have choice, and we start to awaken to desire, and we start to awaken to the fulfillment of needs or wants that we have. We begin to expand our awareness into, okay, I am this thing, but what am I? And I have these desires and urges and impulses. What are they? Where do they come from? And so that becomes our sort of mammalian brain. And as we begin to expand into the, higher places and spaces of the third and fourth dimension, we're really opening up to the heart-centered consciousness, the heart-centered collective, but really through our own self. We are opening up our own heart, and as we open up our own heart, we are coming to realize and recognize in a whole new way where our urges, where our thoughts, where that fight or flight, where our survival mechanisms, where all of those have come from, and we're beginning to understand ourselves in new ways so that we are able to see that everything in our life was laid out just perfectly so that we could arrive at the moment of now, wherein we have the potential in every moment to become enlightened. And what I mean by enlightened is, yes, you have that potential to immediately open up to all that is, and you also have the potential at a little bit of a smaller scale, which is what the ego usually needs, because it doesn't want to shatter itself. And the goal is not necessarily to, kill the ego or suppress the ego. The ego evolves. The ego basically just simply means this is our individualized experience. This is how we identify as ourself. And we're sort of back in time, the message got a little twisted was, okay, I'm going to completely deny that I am separate at all, and I'm going to, that's sort of like going up to the mountain and awe, and then, but you can't go back down into the city without immediately feeling that, and so there became this polarity of, if I want to be one with all life and one with source and one with the love of the universe, I have to separate myself from consciousness. And what we're being asked to do as you start to reach into the higher spaces and planes of the third and fourth dimension is bring that love back into the consciousness and then recognize that it was always there, it always existed, and start to be aware of how it made itself known. And so through the third and the fourth dimension, you begin to experience synchronicities, it's what's going on the planet right now. The light begins to permeate every single space. So where we see, and this was something that I wrote about a month or two ago, where we are in this big gateway period within consciousness right now, all the way in through the next month and into December, where, and this is kind of the final phase of it, where it started several months ago, but this is the space where anything built on, the old mechanisms of power or patriarchy begin to fall apart. And even within our own lives, we have built so much of our life on fear consciousness or lack consciousness that those have really began to seep into creating stories of, whether it's health or money or love or whatever, of there not being enough or us not being enough. And so as that begins to awaken, as the light begins to break through that, we begin to notice, oh, I feel like I'm not enough, or I'm having these thoughts of not being enough or being in lack. Those thoughts and those feelings are not you being sort of tortured by source or being held in a pattern. It is that sort of contrast that you're feeling that sometimes comes across as painful experience, whether it's emotionally or physically or anything else, is you being asked by yourself to awaken to the true fact, the true nature, that you desire something greater in your life. You desire more connection. You desire a house, a vessel, a body, a soul, a spirit not built on sands that the tides can continually undermine and tear down. You desire to be built on a rock. You desire the rock of love. That which now it's got an awful VH1 show in my head. I think that was a show on VH1. So this is moving back to that space. That's the third and fourth. Actually. Yeah, that's what I was like. Oh gosh, now I've got like hair metal playing in like this weird space of my subconscious. And so, sorry, so as I channel, like I kind of do it, and then I've still kind of got my obviously personality going on, and so it's like sometimes I'm kind of watching as the information comes through, and so that was me kind of breaking through with my own little visual that was coming in. And so as we go into the space of the fifth dimension, That is the space of the pure open heart, and that is the space where we can really, we've all heard it said at some point in time, usually in a space where we might not agree with it because we're going through, somebody thinks they're trying to be helpful, right? And they'll say something like, well, everything works out for good and all of this, and sometimes it's something we know, and sometimes it's something we're like, how can you say that? Because I'm experiencing this awful thing, and, you're coming in here with a platitude. The truth is, it's not a platitude. It really is. Everything in your life conspires to bring you into the moment of now, and it's whatever you are in vibrational resonance and harmony with that is what opens up the next door to the next door to the next door around what you're going to experience in the timeline you're going to create. And so in the fifth dimension, what we're doing is we're moving into the pure open heart, which means that we are not trying to exert our will, but we are in alignment with source and spirit in such a way that, it becomes thy will be done, but we merge the thy and the I at every single level, the lowercase I, the higher case I, everything, the EYE, all of it begins to move into union and function and work in harmony together to create time and space really beginning to bend and move in ways where, you might be thinking of someone and then suddenly they call, or you might be having, you might have spent 10 years working on a project and all of a sudden something comes into your reality that allows 10 years worth of work to be done in the space of, minutes or hours or a week. And so it's the space where everything begins to, it appears to be moving faster and faster and faster, yet there is this peace within there that allows you to really be in the moment and enjoy it, that also allows that peace to elongate. And so where I started this explanation was going into the Arcturian consciousness, which is the know thyself. So as we start moving into the sixth dimension, which is kind of a bridge dimension into the seventh, that is the energy of Arcturian. That is the energy of, the best way I can say it is know thyself, but it is knowing yourself in a way that you're knowing yourself. The third dimensional experience is about knowing yourself as separate. The fifth dimensional experience is about beginning to understand and know yourself as connected source consciousness. As you move into the seventh dimensional planes, and those sort of even number dimensions are bridger dimensions where, like, so for example, the fourth dimension has aspects of the third and the fifth. It's the places where you begin to kind of learn to bring in, you bring in what works from the third, you bring in as you open up to the fifth. And so those even number dimensions tend to be kind of what I term slider dimensions, where it's spaces and places where you're learning, you're expanding as you're becoming. And so that's why if you hear me kind of skipping into some odd numbered things, that's why. And I'll touch on it if there's something important that goes on in those even numbers. They just said it's all important, so it's not about that, but it's the sort of explanation of. So in the seventh dimension, then what we're looking at is I know myself as the individual experience, I know myself as the source experience, and now I'm able to see myself from the source perspective. And from the source perspective, I'm still able to know myself as the individual, but I'm able to know myself in a whole way, where as a lot of times when I'll be talking to people on the phone or we'll be asking questions and things like that, belief systems pop right up, and it's like, okay, this is the program. Think of it like a computer, at work or at your office that you may be working on. There are programs that when we press the button to turn that computer on that immediately kick in that we're not aware of. We think, I'm just turning it on. Well, that one act of turning it on sends, thousands and thousands and thousands of codes, binary codes into action that allow us to see that one thing. Well, we are the same way. We have thousands and thousands and thousands, oftentimes, of different beliefs, all competing for sort of dominance within the frequency of our field. And in any given moment, that's why some of you have the experience where you feel very good around certain people, and other people can just really plug you in very fast. There are parts of your being that, when you're around those people that feel good, and you go, well, how come I didn't plug into it when they did it? Well, it's about what's sort of in your field and competing for dominance. And so as we begin to understand what it is and who we are and how we plug in and what our beliefs are, we're able to then change that. And that's where we then start moving and bridging the gap into the Palladian energy, which is all about self-love. And in that self-love, it is opening up to ourselves as a collective cosmic being, yet having the singular consciousness of both source and the self as one, and being able to express that, being able to love ourselves, being able to see that no matter what my story was, it really was always working out for good, and I really was always held safe, even when I was so involved in the sort of virtual reality game of life where it felt so real, and the pain was so real, and the emotion was so real, and the hurt or the sorrow or even the joy, it was all so real. Yet I can see now exactly where I was plugging into or what was constructing those emotions or those feelings within me, and now I'm allowing myself to simply move into a space of divine love, free from any sort of lower dimensional associations of what we have to be or do or have to gain or keep or maintain that love. But we begin to know ourselves from a space of that love, and from that love we can literally change everything, not just the self, not just the world, but literally consciousness itself. And so one of the things that my work does is we go through every single level, and in every single sort of level, or in air quotes, I just used air quotes, but nobody could see me. Well, a few of you can, you've got that. So anyway, that's beside the point. But so at every single space, whether you're literally starting out in sort of that, you're having that fight or flight, and the reptilian brain is the dominant force in your field, and that's the way your electromagnetic field is programmed within your brain, all the way up into even beyond the sort of spaces and places of the Pleiades and self-love. What we do is we go through a space and place. The goal and the intent behind every single thing that I do is to unify your energy field, unify your intention, and open you up to whatever it is within you, the expansion of the love, so that you can know that you are held, you are loved, you are safe at every moment, even when you feel like you're not, so that you can begin to tune into that, so that you can begin to open your heart, so that you can begin to expand in all of the areas and arenas that you're wanting to expand. And as we expand those arenas in consciousness and with the self, that's how we begin to consciously create. So it's not about, if I want it hard enough, and if I just want it more than anybody else on the planet, it'll happen. There is an aspect of that where in the second and third dimensions, where sort of power is the overall control mechanism and creation mechanism, there is that space. And from that space of power, yes, the will is something that, you can push through and move through. And so one of the reasons it's important to begin learning about the open heart is you begin to understand, okay, these are spaces and places where my desire and my heart and my sort of yearning for creation in my life is pure. And what I mean by pure is it's not coming from sort of a want or a space of lack or a space where you think having something or creating something will add to your life in a way that you don't already have. Where that's really the understanding of, like, when we talk about, false idols and making other things our gods, that's what it is. Sometimes, whether it's our job, whether it's love, whether it's a relationship, whether it's a car, a house payment, anything, we sometimes put that thing above all else, and we make it our god because we want it. And in wanting it, we're actually serving the idea and the ideal that we don't have it, and that's where we get locked in our consciousness. And so as we begin to expand, I know I just went over probably like hours and hours and like months of retreat work in 20 minutes, but that's the foundational blueprint that exists within you. And when we talk about what these symbols are, when we talk about the language of light, we're talking about something that comes from a much more expanded space of consciousness. And it's the space, and when I say expanded, it's not a separate space. It's a space that we are all, we are. I could just leave it at that. We are that space. Yet through our own stories and through our own choices, we have come here and we've, in a lot of cases, kind of gone through veils, and we have forgotten. And all of this information is latent in who we are. I mean, it is our source self. And as we begin to open up, that's what these symbols do. They are what I have done. And it'd be great if those of you, because I've already sent out probably 100 or more since we had our first call. So if you all would write in on the UWealth page, some of your experiences, people could begin to see what it is. But the way I would describe it is simply, it is opening up to aspects of yourself that through the conscious mind, like our conscious mind in a lot of ways looks for proof to self-validate its own narrative. And so, that's why sometimes we find ourselves drawn to certain causes or certain kinds of belief systems, because we are trying to self-validate something that's already within us. When we can open up to the expanded awareness and sort of bypass for just a second that part of our ego, when we can unlock and really kick the door off of the separation, when we can be exposed to a space within us that is that connectivity, that pure love, it begins to open and birth all of that, the remembrance. It's like domino effect. It begins to open up and awaken you at every single level so that you can magnify who you truly are beyond all of that. And so the way I would kind of describe it is oftentimes with energy work, what we're doing is it's like we're trying to, get a glimpse of the universe through a keyhole. And this work is about not just expanding that keyhole, but it's about removing the entire door, and then from the door removing the walls, and then realizing that you were the door and you were the walls. And it's about really going very, very deep, very, very quickly, and having that awareness and having that connection. And connection I'm going to start bringing that into the energy that I'm working with on the call here, really helping people, and I'm going to bring it in this kind of Andromedan pink light. There's a journey that I do called Meeting the Andromedan Self, and it's all about the part of you that represents within consciousness pure nourishment, pure support, pure love. For a lot of people, it feels like a very sort of mothering experience, but it defies gender. It would be the mother and the father and the child and everything all in one within the self, allowing you to be nurtured and to feel loved and to celebrate yourself and to have that celebration be able to echo throughout your entire field. And that's actually, we're going to stop, and I'm just going to have everybody, when I say invoke the formula, I know a lot of you are familiar with those words. Some of you will be like, what is that? It's basically you opening up to divine love. It's you opening up to self-love. It's a map of frequencies that exists outside of time and space in a multidimensional way that when brought into your field, and not even brought in, it's in your field. This is you claiming your own sovereignty and opening up to the power that you have. It's that I am the only presence acting anywhere, and it's the capital I, capital A, capital M. It's knowing that source is all there is all the time everywhere. And yes, you are an individualized aspect of that. And as that aspect, you have, just like in a hologram, the smaller sort of fractal has every single piece of the larger whole in it. And so this is the space where we realize we were never separate, we were never smaller. We just kind of hid all of that information away, or we lost throughout, genetics and through time and space. When I say lost, I don't mean it in a way that it was taken away. I mean, we made the choices to come in and forget and to have the experience so that we could experience what it is and learn really all of the different spaces and places. Because think about it this way, and this is a big thing. Most people on Earth who are here to, well, we're here to love, we're here to create, we're here to experience. There is another sort of facet to that where there is a space and a place where people are wanting to understand compassion in a new way. Compassion is not the space of feeling sorry for someone else or feeling, separate but hurting or desiring something better. Compassion is understanding that everyone is free to choose, and we cannot understand that about anyone else until we understand that about ourselves. And so oftentimes we don't think in terms of our own story as we were free. We think of, well, this person set me down this track, or this person did this, or this person created this within my life, and that springboarded me. But there is a space and place within you where you are the architect of all of it. And so what these symbols do, they open you back up to that space where you are the grand architect. It opens you back up immediately to the space where you are the sovereign self, where you realize it is the self-actualizing point where you're able to step outside of yourself in this existence. You're able to step outside of yourself in time and space and realize that it has always been source acting everywhere. And you see the different masks and the different clothes and the different physical identities that you've placed upon yourself or gone into willingly to experience different facets, so you would have a greater understanding where, it's like if there was any doubt at all, you went in to experience the doubt so you could come out on the other side knowing full well that there was never any even need for that fear. And so with that in mind, some of you are very hot right now. I just want to acknowledge that. I felt a wave of that as I was kind of working in everybody's field while I was talking. That is just a space where we're beginning to release some of the denser, heavier vibratory energies of even the sort of second, third, and fourth dimensions as we really move into a space of settling into the heart. So with that said, that's kind of I would just want to have everybody take a deep breath. And we're just going to direct all of our energy systems to open up. I use the term chakras. There's a class within the November to Remember material where we talk about, from a higher perspective, and when I say higher, I don't mean any better or worse. I just mean sort of a more expanded view. There is a space where we could look at that and go, why would anyone ever, put a limit on their energy bodies, and why would they sort of imprison their energy into these sort of 7 cubes. And yet then there's the space of, sort of that first dimensional awareness where we don't know who and what we are. And as we begin to experience that, we need to put things in terms in a language where we can understand. And, that's what religion is. That's what energy, that's where a lot of the roots of everything, even the very esoteric philosophies, they've come from a wanting of understanding who we are, who and what God is or source, and what our relationship is to that divine, and what our purpose and presence here is all about. And so from that perspective, it's very very advanced and very esoteric to begin to think in terms of chakras. And so one of the things we're going to do, so when I say chakras, we go from every single place in space where it's the places and spaces where in our physical bodies and dimensions we're saying, okay, I understand that there are certain parts of my body that I may have compartmentalized or that may represent greater truths within me. I'm opening up to that. And in my book, Love, Life, God, I talk about chakras there are not just 7 of them, and even in some understandings there are, another 5 outside of the body. That's not what chakras are. Chakras and they are, according to, sort of the understanding of the consciousness that began to study itself through that term. Yet when we think of it, when I say open your chakras, what I really mean, and so this is why I'm telling you this definition, chakras are any space and place, which is every space and place, where we open up to our true divine connection, where we open up to our true divine nature, where we not only bring in that light, but where we are that light. And so it is us unifying ourself in wholeness with the one. And so if you have that as the understanding, when you give the direction to open your chakras, what you're giving the direction to is you opening up to your empowerment. And so from that, I want to bring in a little bit of this Andromedan energy, a little bit of the Palladian energy of self-love. And, of course, the Arcturian energy also brings with it an understanding, because as you know yourself, you begin to forgive yourself. You begin to understand where you chose certain things, why you chose certain things, how your life has been constructed through your own belief systems. You begin to understand that, and you begin to love yourself in a whole new way, because you begin to understand yourself, and you begin to see that the choice that you made from the positionality that you were sort of engaged in within your own programming, anyone would have made that choice, even though it felt at the moment that maybe you made a choice and it was the wrong choice. According to all of the information that you had, and according to your harmonics and the vibrational signature of you and where you were at that space, that place in space, anyone that had been in your shoes and been in that vibration would have made the same choice. And so you begin to understand and forgive yourself. And so we're going to bring in that energy just so some of you begin to feel more comfortable directing yourself into your power, because at the lower dimensional spaces and places, we have a lot of collective stories about what happens to people when they open up to power, or we have our own judgments through the second and third dimensional perceptions of what power and patriarchy represent. And even within money, a lot of people still have an association of money as a control energy or a power energy, and whether it's, from somebody else or whether it's even in their own lives where they need money so they can take back control of their own life. That's a space that continues to foster and birth more lack within your own space. And so what we begin to open up to there is, as we open up to our power and realizing that power is not about control. Power in the divine sense is about being able to know your truth, speak your truth, and then being able to take the action on that truth in a way that is in divine accordance with all that you are. And in a space of divine love, there's never a desire to hurt anyone or hurt yourself or impose or take away anyone else's free will, yet there is the sovereignty and the knowledge that you are source in action. And my nose is tingling, which means that some of you just got very scattered. So we're going to, once again, just let these be your words. Simply, I am divine love. And divine love, that is what the creation formula is all about. And so if you have stories where divine love, you're not sure how to feel about that, then that's when you would say, I invoke the formula. And what that does is it gives the direction to all of the spaces and places in your body to begin to tune themselves and align themselves with the pure source harmony of who you really are outside of space and time. And it begins to allow you to slowly lift the curtain on all of those old beliefs and all of the old ego systems that have been operating your vessel. And it begins to allow them to begin to transmute in a space of love, where you then get back I want to say get back because you've always had freedom, but it's kind of like, you've had a chest in your house that's been full of all of this stuff. Well, it was your stuff, but there wasn't any space to put what you really wanted in it. And so this is the space where you're now beginning to, in divine love, allow those chests, allow that space to start emptying out so you can start putting in what you truly want. Okay, good. So I'm going to continue to kind of work the energy as we talk, but that's they just told me to stop for a second, so I'm going to stop and just kind of let everybody catch up and find their bearings here, because we've done a lot.
The roller coaster. Look at your clock. 40 minutes, almost 37 minutes. It's like been a takeoff, and it was so necessary, because what you just did was pull us out of duality that we were sensing before the call that so many people are in with so many of the changes going on the planet, and also just immediately bring them into this God-light energy and this sacred download that we've been talking about. That is, and maybe we can address this, is like that this is actually being accelerated by a lot of different spaces, places, and beings of light that want the planet to actually evolve quicker and quicker and quicker. Let's talk a little bit about some of the things that are coming forward, like the symbols, like the Pleiadian energies and all of this, and maybe why we're being called to move into this space. I know you've mentioned it, but maybe there's something there that benefits people to really get why we need to stay, perhaps, out of the polarity right now, because there is sort of like this hurricane effect on the planet in so many different ways, and there is a reality outside of that as well that is very important to recognize, I guess.
Yeah, I know, and me, like, and I just want to go, whew, because I'm feeling into everybody. I'm feeling into what we just did. I'm kind of, it's a lot. So I just want everybody to breathe. And one of the things that came up as you were talking, Darius, was, and I was feeling into everyone, there was a much larger piece, and what came through right there was just to have everyone acknowledge, even if there's still a little bit of that sort of static that they were feeling before, it's less. And as we begin to acknowledge that, that's the space where we begin to sort of silence the doubt and the voice within that creates the turmoil. And so, so what you're talking about with, why we're being asked to do that. I started saying our country, and then I said our nation, our whole world has been, for a very long time, and it's not a negative statement, because we really have evolved. I mean, if you go back to looking at sort of the consciousness of a cave person, and then bringing it up to the space and place we are now, we have evolved in so many ways. Yet in one of the smallest spaces available, and this space is actually it's the space of polarity. We have evolved and we haven't evolved. We've evolved where we've been able to use polarity to stretch our rubber band within the third dimension. We've been able to use that polarity or that contrast to create, sort of bigger systems of polarity where, I'll just use money as the example because that's what came in. We've been able to create, great wealth or great poverty. And then there are every space, in between is filled with that. And so within most people, they have sort of a polarity consciousness around money. They either have it or they don't. There's either enough or there isn't. And as opposed to it's just currency. It's just energy. And sometimes I say that to people, and it's like it can't even register because they're so locked into that polarity space. And so polarity has served us in great ways. I'm not, I'm never smack talking the ego or polarity or any of that, because it's what we chose. We chose it so that we could experience, and it's been great for our experience. Yet within the collective experience, we've kind of, if you think in terms of that rubber band stretching out, we've stretched it and stretched it and stretched it and stretched it. And every time we push out, we kind of feel a little bit of the push back, right, the resistance from that band. And so what's going on is now we're just being asked, okay, are you ready to cut that rubber band? Are you ready to exist in a space of non-duality? Are you ready to begin to, where you explored physical creation through polarity, are you now ready to explore physical creation through unity and love? And some people are saying yes, and some people are going no, because that no comes from the feeling where the rubber band begins to cut, or it begins to sort of collapse in on itself. And they go, but I've spent so many lifetimes and so much energy into creating in this smaller base of polarity. And it is scary. I mean, let's be honest. Anytime we move outside of our comfort zone, that's scary. Like, we get afraid. Like, you and I have talked about this. Like, everybody experiences fear, just like everybody poops. There are certain things that it's a part of our experience, and we designed it that way. And we don't create sort of the idea isn't to eliminate the fear. It's to get back to a space where we understand why the fear is there and then create what we want anyway. And so, or to create what we want, period. And so why we're being asked, why sort of these higher dimensional energies are opening up, and they've always been there. It's just we're now in a space where we're getting closer to the shore of that energy. And so now we're able to communicate as a collective even more openly with that energy because we are at a space where we have stretched and stretched and stretched, and now we're closer. And so what that represents is it represents the aspects within us. I talk about in some of the material meeting the unmet self, and that's what my term, like when people talk about alien, a lot of times I will rephrase that and say, okay, let's talk about that in terms of the unmet self. If we are experiencing it as, and really we can talk about that in terms of consciousness, is any other person on the planet is our unmet self. So what do they represent within us? And so that space of like the Pleiades, for example, that self-love, that is the space within us that is awakening within us, that has been there, yet for quite a few people it's been dormant, or it's been buried, or it's been broadcasting on station 104 and we've been tuned into station 89. It's kind of like, or we've been on dial-up and that was broadband, and we had to sort of get ourselves to the space where we could really open up to receiving and accessing those messages. Even though those messages were always there, we just had to create the communication grid within our own body and detach from the matrix of fear on the planet long enough to actually listen and hear that voice and hear that message. And that message is coming from, again, our self, our own source self. And it is, are you ready to open up? Are you ready? And I talk about this in my own journey. I kind of chronicle my journey in Love Life God of my own expansion and opening up. And it'd be kind of like, well, love is great, but I'd really like a new iPad, or and it's like, or I'd really like to pay my bills, or I'd really like to have a relationship or a job. There needs to be money coming in. And what Source kept saying to me was, okay, if that's where you're at, that's great. We'll meet you in that space. And if you can let yourself be in a space of love, divine love, self-love, of acceptance, if you can unplug from the judgments that you have about yourself and others, and unplug from we talk about wants, and it's kind of like, would you rather, if you're really, really hungry, right, you haven't eaten in a couple of days, would you rather want a great meal, or would you rather be having that great meal? And so many of us, though, within sort of second, third degree or dimensional polarity consciousness, we're locked into the wanting, because the want is actually what fuels us in the creative process. And so it's hard for that part of our consciousness to open up to the potential that there's a space where we can eliminate want and we can simply have the desire. And desire is kind of a different vibration there, where it's, I'm not wanting any longer based on a lack, or I'm not wanting to fix or to solve. I'm simply releasing myself from the attachment, and I'm allowing the flow of the current to come in to support me on my journey. That also causes the need for us to release a little bit of our control over who we think we are. I'll share my own sort of brief story there. The story of who I thought I was growing up was, very religious, very conservative. I was going to, go be a divorce attorney, going to law school. Like, I had all of these sort of very, within my own self, they were rigid. I don't mean the beliefs themselves, but within myself, they were very rigid and locked in, and this is who I was. And from a very young age, I also had the sort of polarity of, I see things, I know things, I'm a healer, I'm love. And we've talked before about how my physical body broke down because these belief systems were all in conflict with each other. And so therefore I believed that I was broken on so many levels, and my body began to follow suit. My finances, my life began to follow suit. Everything began to follow suit. And so in opening up to who I was and sort of my calling and what I can do, it required me to release a little bit from my old stories. And there was a part of me that didn't want to release from those stories. I wanted to take the sort of love and the unity and use them to fulfill my story, right? And so that's that want to control. And what presented itself through my life was a space and place where all of that kind of broke down. And I know a lot of people on the call have been in that space or are in that space where it's like, well, what do I do? Things are not working. What's going on? And as weird as it sounds to say surrender to that moment, because we go, well, I am. There's nothing else I can do. Surrender to that idea that there's nothing else you can do. And the reason we don't want to do that is because we go, well, no, once I surrender to it, then it's just reality. Well, that's the part of our ego that wants to keep on fighting so that it can self-validate. When we actually surrender to it, what happened in my own life was, okay, So I surrender. Well, now I have a choice. Do I want to continue expending all of this energy fighting and creating this thing that I know kind of breaks my body down, but where I think mentally I can succeed? And the answer to that, because, for so many years I said yes. And I kept breaking down physically. And I was like, okay, God, I literally am killing myself. Why? Because that's the way I thought I was going to succeed and be who I wanted to be in the world. And it was like, it's not about that. But it took me a really long time to understand that. And so the more I began to move into my heart, and that doesn't mean that I wasn't like scared. That doesn't mean that there weren't places. I mean, it was terrifying. I remember, what came through one day was kind of, I was working and doing some other things, and it was kind of like, just tell a couple people that you're a channel. And I was like, I'm not doing that. That is crazy. They're going to lock me up. And, and now, I mean, it's part of my bio. Like, that's who I am and what I do. But at the time, even just saying those words to somebody else, let alone myself, scared the crap out of me, because I just thought, no, I can't fit into this world. Well, the thing is, I was trying to fit into this world while my source self was saying, no, your job is not to fit into the world. Your job is to understand, transcend, and begin to help other people lift out so that they can be in it but not of it, so that they can create themselves in new ways. And that's the thing. We all try to be of the world, and that never works. And so in utilizing sort of the energy of the Arcturian consciousness that is sort of making contact in new ways with our planet, it's not that necessarily the sort of like Independence Day alien energy. It's the unmet self energy. It's the parts of us throughout time and space that are saying, this is the more sort of, I say evolved consciousness, and again, I don't mean that with any judgment or greater or less than. It's just the expanded awareness, and it's saying this is the potential of who you are. This is the potential, what you're experiencing now, and when I say you, I mean like us as a planet. And even though we think of ourselves in such advanced terms, we're like a toddler in the galaxy, and we have so much space and place. And think if you let a toddler just do whatever they wanted, even if you let a 20-year, me at 20, it's like, what do you want to eat for the rest of your life every day? Ice cream and pizza. Well, that's awesome, but at some point, it's like, okay, enough. Like, you're not feeding yourself. You're not actually nourishing your body. And so that's the space that we find ourselves in today on the planet, where we've sort of experienced all these places, and we're open to light work, and we're open to energy work, and we're doing all of these things, yet nothing is really meshing, because we are still in that kind of space of wanting what we want based on what we think is going to be the right thing, as opposed to opening up to source. And the great irony there is, as we open up to source, and you and I have talked about this when we text each other all the time with like inspiration, and it's never the thing that kind of we thought it was going to be in our mind. Like, it takes on a life of its own. That's where that phrase really comes from, where people go, yeah, the energy just like took on a life of its own. And yes, that energy could still take on a life of its own, but if we're not able to be the instrument of action with that energy, everything is still going to kind of stay the same place. And so there's all of these different levels and layers where we're being asked to really know ourselves in a different way, understand ourselves in a different way. And the beautiful thing is, because I know at that, I call it a base level. It doesn't feel like a base level when we're in it. Whether we're working on, like I said, our finances, or we're working on our job or our purpose, or opening up something in our career or in our love life, or with our partners, or with our children and our family, or with our health, which was such a major thing with me. As we begin to open these doors, and as we begin to sort of unhinge the doors, and as we begin to take down the veils, and as we begin to open up, this really interesting thing happens where harmony and balance begins to come into our life in a way that begins to alleviate and begins to clear out and begins to change all of those surrounding circumstances. Where, like for me in my own personal life, I mean, I spent decades, if not one decade, several, quote unquote, trying to fix and heal myself, because mentally, spiritually, chemically, cosmically, etherically, I could probably go down the list. They said, okay, not cosmically, sorry, but I could go down that list. And there were parts of me that felt very broken and that weren't working. And what I thought was, well, I need to fix money before I can have love. And I need to have love before I can have my physical body back. And I need to have my physical body back before I can really start to make a difference in the world. So I had all of these sort of spaces and places where I thought I needed to fix these certain elements so that I could gain my flow. And the great irony was that I needed to surrender all of it and move into the space of love and in that space, and the part of like the body and the ego and everything goes, no, I want to do it. But in moving into that space of love and flow, that's where all of the connective tissues began to regenerate. That's where everything, all of those energetic lines began to open back up, and everything began to fill itself up within my space. And so I know sometimes when we think in terms of, oh, you know, he's talking about multidimensionality, but that doesn't apply to me because I'm sick and I want to feel better. Well, that's when it applies most. I mean, it is not just changing one small thing, and I know it doesn't seem small, it seems massive, but it's not about changing one of those little or massive things. It's about changing the entirety of the whole. Think about it in terms of a symphony. If you go listen to a symphony being played and somebody, you know, in the strings department has, you know, maybe they're missing 2 strings and then all the rest of them are out of tune, the entire concerto, the entire symphony, the entire thing is going to sound really, really weird, even if everything else is playing exactly in tune. And eventually everything else is going to kind of begin to meld in with that. It's going to kind of spread out. And so what we look at is, okay, we're not just working on one specific thing. We're working on you as a total being, as a whole being. And as we can do that, it's not just one thing that changes, it's everything that changes.
Yeah, we're gonna get into a process or maybe a journey that people would like to experience. So let Jarrad feel into the energy of the group. I've got one question maybe we can actually put a little more clarification on from somebody, and we've talked about this before, this idea of surrender. And for some people, that may be a little bit of ambiguous or sort of open-ended word. They don't really understand what that means. This person's writing in, define surrender, Jarrad. I think I've done it, but I'm not sure that anything is changing. So here's the question. Is surrender, we just literally stop where we are and just stop doing, or is it surrendering of energies or ideas or sources where we're plugging in that maybe don't serve us any longer? And is it a conscious thing, or is it an energetic unfoldment that happens in us at some level, and we just
all of those are really good questions. I can answer it with one word: attachment. And so when so the example, and I know they didn't mean this in the way they said it, but it's a great, I'm going to utilize it to kind of explain this. And I would have done this in my own life. Okay, so I'm surrendering, nothing's changing. That means a part of me is looking at what is supposed to change, which means I'm actually surrendering because I think that's going to create a cause and effect. Therefore, it's not actual surrender. Does that make sense, Darius? And I'll expound upon it, but does that, okay. So sometimes I got to make sure I'm like, am I still speaking English?
I'll ask people, does that make sense? I'll ask the audience, does that make sense to each of you? Do you understand what we mean by that? Let us know. Someone says, what's the difference between surrender and giving up, neglecting what is? Can you please explain, how do you surrender? Another person, how do you surrender and direct your energy? How does surrender and directing your energy actually go together?
That's a really good one. That's a really good one. Okay, so we're talking in terms of sort of, that's why I laid out I didn't know why this at the time, but I guess that's why we laid out that sort of multidimensional chart of expansion throughout the dimensions and the energies, right? So when we're in the sort of second, third dimensions, and I want to start with the giving up energy. Giving up is a space where oftentimes leads to surrender, but it's not the same thing. Like within my own story, I thought I was going to die. I gave up. And what I did by giving up was I gave up fighting, and I gave up and said, you know what, fine, just kill me. And the thing that happened when I said that was I didn't die. And then I got pissed off because it was like, well, what the hell else am I supposed to do? I didn't say hell even. I said something much broader than that. But it was like, what the, am I supposed to do now? Like I'm not fighting. Fine, it's still here. And so I gave up, but I didn't surrender. And in my mind at the time, if I surrendered to the thing, that actually would have been the death, because if I said, well, I'm surrendering, well, then that means that I'm just never going to change. And if I'm never going to change, well, that means I'm always going to be this way, and that sucks, and that's not what I want. So that's where I was unveiling my own attachment to fixing, and I didn't even know it. And so what it means in the sort of bigger sense of the energy is, yes, you're saying, okay, I don't need to be fixed. If this is my life, this is my life. And I know that where our ego, where that second, third dimensional consciousness goes is no, and we slam the door on any information that says that. And basically all I'm saying is stop resisting it. And stop resisting it, I'm adding a caveat, stop resisting it with an attachment to changing or fixing it. And what happens is that sort of part of our ego goes, well, then it's always going to be there, and that's what I don't want. And that's that part that says that's what I don't want, that's the part that's judging, and that's the part that's keeping the attachment, that's actually keeping the situation alive within your field. Because if everything is a mirror, and it is, and your belief is that you have to escape, you are never going to be free, because in order to create freedom, you have to escape, or you have to create something to escape from. Your very definition of freedom is contingent upon you escaping and there being something to escape from. So you're always going to create that cycle of being sort of imprisoned and then needing to escape and then being imprisoned and needing to escape. And you're never going to reach freedom, because even if you stand on the X that says freedom, you're going to reset the loop and wind right back up in that space of imprisonment, because your definition of – yeah, go ahead.
Well, my question, is this where this isn't a process of actively necessarily attempting to surrender, but actually allowing some of the energies to surrender, energetically surrendering by plugging into a different frequency? I mean, that's
yes.
kind of a part of it that shifts the perspective and releases the energy that's not allowing the surrender. I think this kind of doubles back to what we're talking about with some of the Arcturian energies and the symbols and the frequencies and the godlight languages coming in that allow us to actually be plugged into a different frequency that then allows the old frequency to no longer be driving our life, which in a way is surrendering without actually surrendering, in a physical sense. It's just going about your day, doing what you're doing, but in a different frequency, a different state, holding different energies. It's not like you're just, share a little bit about that. And we're going to be actually doing some of that, I think, maybe in the process we can.
And actually it was, okay, and I'm going to explain that. And when we did our call, not the bonus call, the primetime call, but when we did our very first call, there was a journey that I sent over. And if you can't find it, that's fine. I can do a live version of it. But we didn't use it on that first call. If you happen to have it, let me know. If not, I'll do a live version while I explain. But I'll just kind of have you look for it while I explain that. So that's where. So again, we're looking at. That's where multidimensionality comes in, because we are not just our thoughts. We're not just all of these different things. We're frequency in action. Well, there's a way that frequency begins to establish thought, that begins to establish belief, that begins to establish who we are, right? And so the idea of surrender, yes, from an egoic sense, understanding the surrender is, okay, I'm just going to let go. And it means totally letting go. But in totally letting go, you free yourself. So back to my story, in totally letting go in that moment, I created the space within myself to go, wow, well, if this is it, well, I'm still here. What else would I maybe like to experience? And in that one moment, I brought in a new vibration. I brought in a new instrument into my symphony. And then I began to kind of, now my whole symphony sounds different. Well, okay, it still sounds mostly bad, but hey, what's that one thing that kind of feels good right now? And then in feeling that, I began to bring in another instrument. And through sort of the experience of myself in linear time, I began to open up to bringing in more tools, more instruments, which was the act of changing vibration, changing frequency. And so it's kind of like a lot of times we want there to be an easy button energetically where we go, okay, boop, press the button, and now I'm different. And while there is, and that's in a lot of ways, that's what, the God's light symbols are. That's what the light language is. That's what a lot of teachers on the planet are bringing forward today, is giving you such sort of an energetic reset. Yet at the same time, we also have that little pesky, tricky, amazing, wonderful, loving thing called freedom of will, free choice. Well, sometimes we, in our sort of toddler state, our own ego, our own individualized presence, that's a better way to say that. We go, I feel better now. Hey, you know what? I'm going to go back and I'm going to – so I'll use the example I've used before of jumping in a mud pit. And we go, I didn't want to get muddy, but I wanted to play with all the people that were in here, but I did not want to get muddy. And so we get out and we go home and we take a shower and we clean our clothes and we go, okay, so now I'm going to set the intention. I no longer want to get muddy, but, look, they're having so much fun. I want to go play with them. And we jump in and we go, well, crap, I got muddy again. And so that's what I'm talking about. We're kind of hitting it at every level here as we work the energy. So what we're really doing is going, okay, so now I've sort of cleaned my clothes, I've taken a shower, I'm not muddy. I recognize that maybe I had a judgment about the mud and maybe it's actually fun. Maybe I can go do that. That's fine if that's your choice. Or, hey, look, there's actually people over there playing on a playground that I didn't even see before because I had mud in my eyes. And now that I'm clean and now that I'm focusing on another space, I've opened up room for another experience. that's where we get into the space of, well, now do I want to choose that experience? Do I want to choose something I don't know, or do I want to stay in my comfort zone? And so as we begin to get the energetic support that is in all of these frequencies, that's in all of this energy, we begin to literally be the experience. We are the change. I mean, there is a part of us all, I think, that wants to just have something come in and change it all. And while that happens at the higher levels, there is still that part of us where we have to surrender to that change. We have to surrender to the energy and surrender to being the change and surrender to taking the action that is in alignment with the change, if that makes sense. So that's really what surrender means. It means surrendering to your own alignment. And so for me, that meant stepping forward and letting people know who I am and what I do and all of that. And at the time, it felt awful and I didn't want to do it. And so I thought, okay, surrender just means open up to the fact that I do it, but still try to keep that hidden and do something different. And so energetically what we're looking at is surrendering just simply means, can I allow myself to let go of the past, let go of the future, and be in the now? And sometimes we answer no to those, so you have to ask yourself again. And what we realize eventually is, well, I could. I'm not sure I want to, but okay, I can. I'm going to. Okay, yes, I'm just in the moment of right now. And we realize we've been trying to get out of the moment of right now because there are so many things in the moment of right now we thought were broken. But the sort of crux of that is we can't change anything that we are actively resisting or ignoring. And so surrender in that regard just means look at what actually is. Release the judgment, release the attachments to why you thought it had to be different or what you wanted to change, and just simply be the observer consciousness. See, I'm trying to bring in all of these different words that people have heard in different ways explained so that you understand that there's a through line through all of it. And if you can look at your life as the observer consciousness, as source, you can just go, oh, it just is. There's no attachment. There's no, okay, well, this is what I've created. Well, that's what I don't want to create. Well, okay, now this is what I do want to create. And then you can come back into the sort of individualized experience with a whole new perception and a whole new vibration and a whole new energy that then allows you to begin to take off and create your life in that direction. And so surrender didn't mean getting overtaken by the tides or getting drowned by the tides. It just simply meant acknowledging that they're there and that the more you swim against them, the more tired you're going to be. And that if you can allow them to actually push and carry you, you will wind up in a space. And maybe it's not the space that you consciously think from those lower levels that you want to wind up, but there is a flow in the universe, and if you will go with that flow, you will open up. Maybe the tide was trying to push you out to sea because that's where the rescue boat was, and you're in your head, you're going, well, I'm a mile from shore, I see shore. If I can just keep swimming and keep pushing, eventually I'll get there. But what happens is you tire out and you drown, whereas the energy of the universe was trying to say, there's a boat just beyond you that you can't see, and if you will just relax and release, we will actually bring you to that space. But from our own orientation, it feels like we're going in a different direction that we don't want to go in, so we push it and we fight it. So that's what I mean by surrender. It just means acknowledge what is, release your attachment, and allow yourself the space to create from a new aspect, to create from a new energy, to expand your consciousness, to bring in new potentials and possibilities that you weren't able to see while you were locked in the fight.
Well, let's do this. A lot of people writing in with some incredible things. I know this is a massive download. The other thing that's happening is energetically, as we're bringing in these things, and sometimes you're trying to follow along and you're trying to say, okay, I'm getting this, and you're listening, there's energies and new concepts and new paradigms being downloaded into your system through some of these higher wave energies that Jarrad is bringing in. So if you're feeling a bit loopy like I do, or things around you are sort of acting up, you know, like we talked about the last time when your fuses blew, Jarrad, or my phone blew the time before that. My other computer just like crashed and went wonky over here on the left of me. I have a computer that just crashed. So all these things start happening because we're bringing in new information that begins dissolving the old paradigms and ideas. A few people, Twyla wrote in, wow, epiphany when you were talking about surrender and what I needed to do. I kid you not, the sun peeked out from behind a cloud at the exact moment you said that, and it had been raining all day. Illumination inside and out. Another person just wrote in and said, thank you. I'm feeling so much peace already about my move, and that everything is going okay, and that everything is going to go okay and be awesome. And, you know, I'd be remiss if we didn't talk about a little bit about how some of these energies work. You don't necessarily have to think about them. You don't necessarily have to really even know what's going on. I want you to be aware and conscious, but you don't need to follow along and understand everything that's being said, because a lot of it is reaching areas where we're not actually consciously thinking about, right? So
yeah, there are some places we're hitting where like you don't have a conscious sort of understanding of even what that place is. So as it begins to sort of seed into or awaken within what was already there in your being, a lot of times people people have this experience all the time with me, so I can explain it. We are hitting spaces in the unconscious and the subconscious and bringing things to the front. And so sometimes people fall asleep. Sometimes people go unconscious because they're dealing with such deep stuff. Sometimes it's almost like someone will listen to a call and be like, it's like you were speaking another language. I didn't get it. They'll go back a week later and listen. They'll go, oh, my God, I got it at every single level. I just was so in it at the time. It literally could not or would not. I wouldn't let it. I wouldn't allow myself to open up to the information and the energies. And so what we're doing, and as I'm talking, I'm bringing in light, I'm bringing in some higher frequency to help start to illuminate that. But we've done so much energy work in the previous two calls that a lot of what was coming in through channel, I think I know in a way, was to help people really begin to get a foundational grasp or build that foundation. You know, one of the things I said a minute ago that I remember was we were talking about the tides washing away the sand. And a lot of times our conscious mind is built on that foundation of sand. And so as that begins to kind of wash away and we begin to move our foundation onto that kind of rock of divine love, we kind of go, or we go, where did I just go for 20 minutes? I just completely checked out. You didn't check out. You were here. The energy was moving within that. It was just a space and place that actually was much bigger than your conscious perception of what is potential or possibility in your life, and it was kind of like a reset within your own programming where you were awakening to that light and allowing that to begin to sort of reset and rebuild into who you are.
Right. Well, we got this one comment from Shireen all the way in London, England, and we're going to be doing an activation process here in just a moment, but she says, bless you both. I really, really needed this call today. I'm feeling the energy, Jarrad, like I've never felt before, and I'm sitting up. My symbol, which I got in September, thank you, is actually getting stronger than ever, and the multi-dimension of the symbols take on a life of their own and continue to adjust as I grow and deepen. I'm changing in a way beyond my greatest expectation, and I've got now nothing but love. Thank you. Thank you. So we're going to talk about these symbols and kind of what it all means and how it's all going to be integrating in November, as we're in November now, and it's going to be starting up this November to remember, and this dimensional portal that we're talking about, moving people into, is going to be a big part of this and a big part of really shifting and making life much easier in so many ways. Jarrad, I'll let you jump in and move into what maybe you are channeling in from the higher realms and spaces and places you connect to that all of us may want to experience and feel right now.
Yeah, we're going to do a little bit of a taste of, we're going to do a taste of a lot of it, but what's really coming through is the nurturing energy. We talked on our Wednesday night call about connection and really feeling, and I want to add to that connection the feeling of nurturing. And one of the things that you said, Darius, that was so amazing was, to everyone, you matter and your joy matters, your heart matters, who you are matters. And so I want everyone to just take a deep breath, and we'll kind of get back into the physical body. Sometimes as we are doing energy work and things are spinning, we kind of leave consciousness. And so it's almost like if you could just push a little button, right there on your chest, like a little Iron Man symbol or something, where you just press the button and all of your energy goes, whoop, comes right back into your body. I know some of you are like, I don't want to go back into my body just yet. So what we're doing is we're bringing in the as above, so below energy and vice versa. So as you take that deep breath, just exhale with sound, really connecting into your body. Ooh, a lot of you, I just felt that you felt your shoulders shift and your back, your neck, all of those areas. That's good. That means you just kind of came back into your body in a much lighter space where you're no longer shouldering a lot of the burdens you were shouldering. That's cool. Okay, so we're going to, again, direct that our chakras open, that our heart line be straight, strong, and through the ID point. The heart line is the unification of your energy, moving from the individual self all the way up through to source, And as above, so below. So that means that we're moving all the way down into kind of what we would consider in this paradigm the center of the earth, but dimensionally, cosmically, what that means is we are rooted in at every single level, at above and below, just a pure source energy. And as we root in, I can feel some of you who have done these with me before. We're going, okay, let's root into the fifth dimensional consciousness, or even beyond that. We're going to start rooting into, if you can picture this energy moving in a line straight down all the way into the center of the earth, but we're going to move into this kind of iron core crystalline grid. And as we begin to spin that ball there, we're going to go, and actually it's like a dimension shift happens and the energy turns into white diamonds. And we're going to allow our energy to flow into that white diamond sea. As the energy begins to refract and reflect off of these diamonds, it begins to change color, it begins to move, it begins to permeate sort of all of the spaces and places around it. We're going to allow this energy also to, as it changes, sort of the energy above us changes, and it begins to sort of reflect and refract the beautiful colors. One of the colors that is coming through for quite a lot of you is a beautiful amethyst energy, the violet flame. We'll get a little purple going on there. There's a nice green energy as well, kind of an emerald, which is I always associate with the truth of who we are, along with just the pure energy, pure white source, pure presence. And we're going to allow that energy now to start just raining down from above, just moving in absolute beautiful blankets of warmth. Some of you will feel sort of blankets and waves of cool. That's higher dimensional energy entering into your field. That's you raising your own frequency, bringing that energy all the way into your being, bringing in the gooey golden light so that any energies around you that would be trying to create an interference or a sabotage energy, that energy begins to dissipate. That what we do is we find the places and spaces within us where we are not quite open to our sovereignty, where we're not quite open to our dimensional alignment, where we're not quite open to our own I am presence. We're allowing this beautiful gooey golden light to come in from above and flow through our body like honey, moving through and opening up our meridians, opening up our space to our power, opening us at every single level as this beautiful multidimensional diamond-colored energy flows in from above and from below, bringing in these beautiful colors of palladium blue, the Arcturian purple, bringing in this beautiful emerald green energy of truth, bringing in the beautiful white light, allowing it to create a base for us to stand upon and a field, a cleansed field to exist in. As we bring in this gooey golden light all the way into our being, we'll direct it through the brain, through the crown chakra, moving into the head, clearing and cleansing any spaces of the third eye where maybe we've not been able to see ourselves in a new way, or where we've not been able to see ourselves as sovereign, or see ourselves open to new potential, see ourselves acting in new ways in the world, or new ways within our own relationships, whether it's to others or to ourselves. And that was a biggie, cleansing and clearing that space. Some of you actually felt that, like your legs just went out. So that was where you were kind of standing on false perceptions of yourself. We're going to bring that energy all the way. We'll bring it through the sinus cavity, through the nose, through the ears, opening you up to hearing the truth of who you really are, opening you and tuning you to the consciousness of pure source energy, which is a space void of limitation. It's the space and place of all creation, opening you up to hearing, opening you up to seeing, moving this energy through your physical eyes, bringing it down through the throat, opening you to speaking this truth. And some of you, I just felt like go into almost a channel energy where energy is wanting to come out of your throat. So opening you up, whether it's light language or tuning or any of those energies, opening you up to being able to be the physical expression of that energy. And then what they said even beyond that was opening you up to actually channeling who you really are, your true self, your multidimensional self, meeting who you are, the part of you that knows everything, the part of you that's open to it, bringing it in. We're going to bring in a little bit of that Andromedan pink energy and swirling it in with the gold now as we move all the way down through the throat, into the thyroid, into the ascended heart area, opening you up to receiving the messages in the body, outside of the body, that are in alignment with and support of your own nurturing and your own love, allowing this energy to just blanket your entire being so that it feels like a warm hug, so that it feels like the universe And for some of you, the universe is a little too big there, so just so that it feels like you have support in this world, so that someone has your back, bringing this energy down into the heart, opening you up to the love, allowing this energy to just fall, layer itself like swirling honey, just building and building and building and filling. And we'll allow it to continue to fill that space as we continue to move the energy through the arms, allowing you to release any sort of shackles where you've not been able to hug yourself, love yourself, and even take action, or where you maybe have not allowed yourself to drop those old boxes or burdens that you've been carrying around for yourself or others, knowing that now is the time to support yourself. And right when I did that, what we're going to do is we're going to bring a little bit of this emerald green light right in through the base of the skull, right back in through the sort of reptilian brain, but also down through the spine, really cleansing and clearing any of that fight or flight energy from the body, so that you're able to stand in that truth without any fear for what standing in your truth is going to do or create for yourself or someone else. And that kind of doesn't mean, well, if I release the fear, then I'm still in it. No, what we do in releasing the fear is we also release the expectation. And if the expectation is no longer there, the energy is no longer oriented toward creating it, which means you've now freed yourself to no longer create that pattern in your life. There we go. We're going to let that energy, that green energy, continue to flow all the way down into the base of the spine as we move the gooey golden and pink light down through the solar plexus, through the belly, allowing you to open up to the light of the one, the light of the world. What's really truly there, the I am presence that acts in the back of everything. And we talked before about there's a space and place where you can look at anything under a high-powered enough microscope and you will see space. There is a unifying factor within the space of all things, and that is God, that is source, that is light. And so this is the space where we open up now. I'm going to bring in a little bit more white light right into that space and right through the small of the back, because this is that space and place where for some of you, you're not wanting to see God in action. You're wanting to hang on to the story or the struggle. So this is kind of that energy of, would you rather be right or happy? And the fun part about that is once we choose happy, sort of right goes out the window, because then we begin to align with our happiness and we begin to make choices that always seem to be quote unquote right. So it's kind of like we get rid of the old energy and we bring in the new, and it brings us everything we thought we were going to get by holding on to the old. So now we're going to bring this energy all the way down through the midsection, through the waistline, just allowing you to reorient yourself in your body in time and space, bringing this awareness into this existence, bridging the spaces and places where you can stay multidimensional but also stay rooted and grounded into your body and grounded and rooted into the fifth and seventh dimensional earth planes. As we now move this energy, the gooey golden light and the pink, down through the legs. For some of you, it's almost like we just ran out of this energy, so we're going to amplify that energy a millionfold with every breath, so that we know it's like taking a thimble's worth of water out of the ocean. There's always so much more there. You could never deplete, and you can never even make a dent in the amount of energy. So now, there we go. Whew, okay, that did it. So now we're going to bring the energy all the way down through the knees, allowing you to reorient your connection to the universe, reorient your connection to self and source and other, going down through the feet, and just allowing these little trap doors to open up and energy to shoot out through the bottom of your body. Anything that no longer serves you, allow it to just flow out. There we go. Allowing things to just continually flow out. And what we're going to do is, it's kind of like for some of you, the fear there was it's going to like, these little critters are going to flow out and all of a sudden like be in your environment. And if they're not inside, you're going to be dealing with them outside. So what we're going to do is we're just going to sort of bring all of this energy and give it a gravitational pull down to the center of the earth, where there is, we're going to bring in kind of the great central sun energy, but it's like the fiery energy of earth, where there's a space and place within that great central sun energy where no matter what goes into it, it doesn't affect the whole. It's just simply transmuted. It's dissolved. And the whole of that great central sun is light and love, and it's so powerful that it transmutes and absolves anything that comes into its place and space. And so we're going to direct any and all of that energy, that kind of little critter energy that I felt for some of you, down into that space, to be transmuted, to be resolved or absolved, and moved right into the, there we go. Some of you just felt, it was like the knees, and then it went all the way into the waistline and the stomach. It was like a jerk for some of you. And I know some of you are crying. You're having a big release. A few of you may have like a bathroom sensation, and that's fine. That's like a physical release that you're having. So there we go. Now we're going to just go ahead and bring this beautiful diamond wave energy up, as above, so below. So we're bringing this beautiful Arcturian purple and the palladium blue. We're going to begin bringing in the beautiful emerald green, the light of truth and oneness, the pure white light of source, bringing that all the way up from the center of the earth, all the way through the feet. As we climb back into the space and place of empowerment and what we're standing on the light and truth of the one as we go back up through the calves, massaging, moving into the knees, allowing you to orient and stand in truth through the thighs, bringing this beautiful golden light, this beautiful Andromedan pink energy back up, right through the root chakra, through the creative zones of the body, allowing you to now feel supported in the creation of you. And we're going to amplify the energy of the emerald for some of you, because what we're wanting to do is we bring in the creation of you and the support of you. We're wanting you to really begin to open up to discovering who you are. You know, some of you just want to know who you are, and that can happen as well. And some of you, there is the creation in your field of discovering who you are. And that will be, you know, it can be a very short journey, but it's just opening yourself to the new discovery. And discovery, the difference between kind of the knowing who you are versus discovering who you are. In discovering who you are, it's almost like you can't know who you are until you discover who you are, because the discovery brings with it an experiential process that actually gives you the foundation, that actually gives you the experience of being who you are. And it's the experience that then creates the knowing and the radiation in your light. And so it's not just a mental knowing, it's this actual, the beingness of who you are. So we're going to bring that up through the root chakra and bring it up through the navel to support you, through the solar plexus to be able to be in your power center, up through the heart, all the way through your arms. We're going to flow this energy down through your arms, allowing you to create in the world with it. We're going to bring it up through the heart, allowing you to really anchor into the love, and then just bringing it up all the way through the back of the throat, all the way up the back of the neck, into that reptilian brain, into the full brain. We're directing the entirety of the brain to open to this light, to receiving this light. Ooh, some of you, it's interesting. You feel almost like drunk. There's a very warm sensation in your head and fuzzy. That's okay. That's just your opening to the light. So now we're going to begin to bring in a little bit of it's kind of a liquid silver mirror energy, and just kind of splash that up. It's like coming up through the sort of back through the throat, up into the pituitary pineal glands in the center of the brain, just to kind of cool the spaces that we've done and allow a reflective light to be there where you're able to see what's going on within your system as we lift that out through the crown chakra and have it just begin to literally begin to move out through your field around your space. So again, as above, so below, this energy has been filling you and your space, and this energy is you. And so we're just going to create a self-sustaining energy field there, a torus field, allowing you to constantly be nurtured and constantly be knowing in the knowingness of what it is to be loved and seen and to matter, and then be able to take that and be able to take action that allows you to step into ever growing and ever bigger ways. So we're going to do that. For some of you now, I also want to bring in a little bit of, it's like a tourmaline energy, crystalline energy, to just bring in as we kind of move through the bottoms of the feet and kind of detach you from standing in limitation. So for those of you that are ready, just simply open up, and we're going to take one more deep breath. Connecting out, really feeling into your body, feeling into your space, bringing all of your awareness here, knowing that as above, so below. Again, as we expand out, we expand in, so that it's never about like leaving the body and coming back. It's simply about expanding our physical space and expanding our ability to hold that space and be sovereign over that space. And we're just going to bring in a little bit more golden light to just kind of fill the body out. There we go. Just going to keep bringing a little bit of that in to kind of wake the brain up. I'm actually going to bring in a little bit of like a cooler palladium blue, like splashy energy, just to kind of splash everybody awake a little bit. Some of you, I won't do it too, because you're like, no, I feel so good and gooey right now. But some of you are wanting to kind of wake up a little bit. So I'm going to bring some of that. There we go. Bring a little bit of that energy into the field. Just kind of pop everybody back. There we go. Yeah. Okay. Whew.
Wow. All right, we'll just let that come in. I felt every single thing. I mean, I felt the warmth, and then I felt the cool energy coming in. It's just amazing. Wow. I'm going to just let everybody catch a breath. And
yeah, that's what it feels like. I know it feels like that.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
And that's kind of the foundational that's kind of the foundation that we set for moving forward with everything else that we're doing. It's all very multidimensional, whether this is your first time, whether you're used to it. Every single time we experience things like that, we have new experiences because we have created new things in our existence. We've expanded into the next moment, and that next moment brings with it kind of new definition or new loss of definition. And so we're always expanding and changing. And so even when you listen back, to this call, if you want to listen back this weekend, if you have time, or if you're listening this weekend, listening back again and again, you will hear something different and feel something different each and every time, because you will be unfolding and opening new layers of yourself. You'll be opening yourself to more and more and more every time you experience it.
I got the sense also of being supported in a whole different energy paradigm, a whole different dimension. And I think there are so many of us right now who are kind of looking at the hurricane, the controlled storm of transformation that the world seems to be going through, and being supported in this space and being cocooned and then elevated. It feels really, really good. And I want to hear what you girls are feeling, because it definitely is like a whole different dimension we're in when Jarrad brings us into that space, and certainly from where even I was at the beginning of this call, and you and I talked about that, and I was like, man, I'm feeling some of this like hurricane energy, this polarity, and you're like, okay, just stand tight, I'm pulling you out, and now it's a whole different space, and this is kind of where we can create in a very, very powerful way. Carla, great call. Another person, wow. Cloudy here until now. The sun's rays bathed me in beautiful light during Jarrad's expansion journey. Elisa in Edmonton, I felt that and to and through me. Thank you. Jamie, so much coughing and throat stuff. Wow, love you guys. Powerful. Audrey, that was fabulous. Another person, oh my gosh, blessings for all of you. Thank you. Another person, my throat's getting.
I was doing throat work on everybody right
wow.
there. Yeah.
Just saw the energy was like a pillar of white pink light filling up all the spaces of that with that divine energy. Thank you. Another person, thank you, Jarrad. Incredible in clearing all of these spaces. I'm feeling so much joy. Same thing happened to me. The sun just started coming out again. Another person said that. Feeling loopy, getting so much coming in that I'm disconnecting from all that was. Another person, the fear is gone, just love. Thank you. Feeling lightheaded and a flow of warmth throughout my body, says Barbara. I felt it all too, says Monique. I don't even have the language to describe what I felt. Another person, Kelly, called in. The energy was so amazing in the process, it zonked out my phone. I just want to ask Jarrad a bunch of questions. Wow, we're going to get to hopefully some of that. Just a lot going on. I'm going to refresh again. Another person felt all of the rays meet in my heart and radiate out golden beams of light. Another person, Susie, the sun just came out here as well, expanded. So a lot of stuff going on. A bunch more people writing in all over the world, actually. Jarrad, I want to talk a little bit about kind of where all this is leading to, because one of the things that you're sensing in this time is this November to be kind of a pivotal month for a lot of us, and it's leading to this big earthly invitation to really embrace some of these energies that we're bringing forward. And you know this, you've predicted this, and this is why you're helping a lot of people go deeper and be supported in the November to remember. And let's talk a little bit about what that is. I mean, whether you decide to go deeper into this or not, I mean, it's perfectly okay. I'm not attached to it at all, other than the sense of I just want you to attach to some love today and be a part of just this call, which you are, which is great. But for some, they want a little more guidance going deeper, a little more support. Tell us a little bit about the November to Remember program that is happening and what people are going to be doing in that program.
Yeah, I was chuckling because it's not even a little support. We've already started. I opened the membership site early, and I've already answered probably 50 questions or so. But I've had several people who have been like, "Oh my God, you mean I can actually ask you questions?" And holy crap, you actually answered these questions. And like, I've had this question for 20 years, and now I just got an answer that totally made sense. So I was just chuckling because that was going on as I was on the site earlier last night. Yeah, so what we're going to be doing is, like, basically the space we just created, that space is always there. And I love that so many people experienced the sun coming out, because sometimes we forget, like, we're in a cloudy day, and we forget that beyond the clouds that the sun is still there. It's just whatever our perception is, however we've created that reality at the time, we don't see it. Well, the same is true with that love and that support, that nourishment of the creative forces of the universe. It's always there. Sometimes we just don't see it because of the clouds that we've created in our life, or that are in our life that we don't even know we've created in our life. And so for 20 minutes a day, I will do nothing but begin to send that sort of sunshine energy. I do remote energy work on every single person for 20 minutes every single day. We've got the membership site open where you can ask me questions. As you know, trust me, I've got, you can be as personal as you want. Somebody even yesterday said, this is really personal, and it was personal to them, but I've gotten much, personal stuff, and I answer it exactly as I see it. I will tell you what the energy is. I had somebody else say, wait, did you answer her specifically, or were you like just saying for the group? And I was like, no, that was specific to that person. I usually try to tie it in with the group, but I answer you based on what I see in your field. And then I'm doing symbols, and quite a few of you have already gotten yours. I'm doing, I will channel, I'll let you pick the topic, and if you, for example, I've said this before, like if you pick relationships, it won't just be, okay, let's open you to a relationship, because like when people win the lottery, sometimes they lose all of that money within a very quick amount of time, or their whole life kind of spirals out of control because they didn't have the vibrational foundation to handle what was coming into their life. And so it's not just about opening you to that subject, it's also about looking at all of the other spaces and places that will be affected by that subject as you begin to create and open into that. And a lot of times those other spaces and places are what the resistance is and where the actual block is. So you may be saying, I want to open up to relationships, but there may be a block in some other part of your energy field that you would never assume was associated with relationships, but that's what's keeping it. So we go in, and I basically do a blueprint of your field and then channel a symbol. And the symbol is all about your innate beingness from source consciousness awakening you and beginning to lift out. And I do an activation for you where, it'll be a personalized activation for the energy of your symbol, where I will go in and we will start looking at, so say you chose health, we would go in and say, okay, so within health, but we're also going to start looking at this and this and this and this, and I take you through an activation of actually how to utilize the symbol. There's usually light language involved in that, where we begin to really in-tune you and begin to open you up to all of the energy that is there beyond your story, beyond your ability to comprehend, but it begins to open your doors. It's kind of like we've been living in a 5,000 room mansion, and we thought we were just like our world has been the one room we've been in. And that one room might have had every single thing we ever needed to exist. And it might have been it might have even been, a 5,000 square foot room where it had everything we could ever desire. But the awakening is there is so much more even beyond that. And so it begins to anchor you in and give you a new foundation that includes the entirety of who you are and open you up to that. And then beyond that, we'll meet obviously on the board. I'm on there every day, several times a day, talking to folks, answering questions. We meet once a week for calls. We'll do, a 90-minute, I think there's 60 or 90 minutes, but I usually go long anyway, where it's just like what we did on this call, where I'll channel. A lot of times there will be like one of the calls will be mostly channeling. Oftentimes when I do things like this, one of the calls will just, I'll get on and start just going to the phone lines and taking questions. So it's a really personalized space of communion, of community, of love, of expansion. And then so beyond all of that, which in and of itself is awesome, I've created an entire, I'll call it a platform because it's a great kind of launch pad, but spaces and places of what I call energy journeys, and they come with or without the music because sometimes the music really helps people get into it, and sometimes I find people that, they get a little distracted by it. And so it's us taking these journeys into, for example, there's one called Meeting the Andromedan Self, and I actually take you on a journey where you meet that part of the energy, and where you actually have a dialogue and a discussion with that energy, and where, you know, all kinds of things about who you are and where you come from are revealed. There's one for rewiring your brain for conscious creation, and it's not just the physical brain. It's the brain. With the brain as a whole actually includes the electromagnetic field of the body, and the brain isn't just like a lot of people think the brain is the mechanism for thought and creation. The brain is a mechanism of like filtration for thought and creation. It is the way that we kind of receive the light or process the light around us, and how we broadcast the light, and how we orient to our own physical reality. And so, you know, and I think there's like, I don't know, 17 or 20 of these journeys in here. About 6 of them brand new. There's a video. I do a 30-minute video activation where we go through and really align you with Source, awakening and opening you to this paradigm. It's a whole. It really is a whole. That's why it's spaced out, you know, over the course of a few weeks. And even I wanted to start it a little bit later so that here in America, the first day where I'm going to actually amplify the energy. The energy work starts the day you sign up, and I usually start kind of with working what I call a fear clear energy, but on the 8th is when that's the first day, but our first call won't be until probably the 9th or the 10th, because in America, I want to let a little bit of the election energy settle down.
Right.
And I say that and they're laughing at me, so that means it's not going to be settled, but we're going to have a chance to address it in a different way.
Interesting prediction, yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't mean that to be like it's going to be like you know, like, well, I don't know what they meant by that, honestly.
Okay.
But I think it could just be that, you know, some people will still be very plugged in and riled up.
Right.
And this will give us a chance to kind of begin. It's kind of like taking a boiling pot off of the stove, and then we'll begin to put some ice cubes in it. You know, we'll begin to do some work like that. But I'm going to really amplify a lot the amount of daily work and the sort of amplitude of that work starting on the 8th to really set the space, because that's when we're going to kind of have our group really locked in. And I don't mean locked in as far as like not being, but I mean as far as like we're going to really, really start cohesively coming together and opening up to some massive stuff. But and it actually goes through, the reason I wanted to do it later this year was part of that porthole energy, where October was a massive exhumation, where all of these deep old wounds came up, where a lot of light flooded in to expose places and spaces that needed exposing. And so November is actually going to be a space that will set the stage for, I started to say the next 6 months, and they said even 6 years, and then beyond that and beyond that. It's kind of the space and place where we come to a point within ourselves where we have a very powerful window open, where we can begin to reorient ourselves to reality in a way that begins to, it's almost like planting the seeds that begin to, you know, over time sprout these giant trees that eventually create the beautiful forest that we're all wanting to create, or the beautiful reality that we're wanting to create. So there's a very tender planting time. And it actually takes us through, for those of you that are in America, it'll actually go through the Thanksgiving holiday. So what better time to have all of the daily work than, you know, Ram Dass has that great quote about, you know, if you think you're enlightened, spend a week with your family. And so
exactly.
I find that's always a great time to also have, you know, wonderful support and nourishment, and it gives us a space to also begin to look at our own relationships in new ways. And it's actually a beautiful sort of playground area where we can begin to take what we're learning through this process, and we begin to see other people in a new way, and we go, wow, now I understand why my parents act this way to me, or now I understand the dynamic between me and my sister or my brother or my siblings. Anyway, so there's all kinds of support, because that's really what I'm about in a lot of ways, are helping you find that space through support and love, where you open up to your own creative passion and force, and showing you how to create the world you want to live in.
Yeah, let me jump in and share kind of where it is for people that are asking. It's at uwealthrevolution.com/Jarrad, JARRAD12. And we've been getting a lot of comments back from people who have gotten their symbols, have been experiencing some interesting things, and a bunch more comments on what's happening. One person, my sinuses opened up and cleared. I didn't realize that. Lots of violet color coming in. Another person said, I feel so good in a peaceful way. Barbara, the sun is coming out here too. Another person said, wow, that was amazing. Lots of love. Thank you. So all of this is happening in this activation, and the November to Remember program, which is what we're talking about, is about transforming your ordinary into extraordinary. And one of the things that Jarrad's doing, and I can't say how much longer you're going to be doing this. I don't know if you'll do this again next year, but it's for any subject or energy you want, right? Because you've got hundreds of these. That's a massive amount. And for any energy or subject you're dealing with, submit to Jarrad. Let him know. He's going to know your energy and connect with you energetically to actually create something just for you. And he says he will tap into your energy field to create a one-of-a-kind symbol, but beyond a symbol, the language of light activation. And for people, that don't really understand the language of light activation, where is that coming from? What is that doing in the body and maybe even the body's circuitry or energy circuitry and pathways? Because, again, it's unique for each person. It's not going to be a cookie cutter. It's going to be based on what you want to see come about. So I'd ask everybody right now, what is the number one thing that you'd really love to see happen? Write that in at uwealthrevolution.com/now. Let us know. And, Jarrad, what is that doing to the circuitry? Because they're going to get that directly from you based on what they want and their own energy.
Yeah, so the language of light, that in and of itself is kind of like I could do a 2-hour call. I think there's actually, I'm not sure which, let me look here. It's on here somewhere. There was an explanation. I kind of went off. It was a long one. I think it's Journey into the Language of Light, which is one of the bonus items, I believe. I'm looking. It's on down there, but the language of light, so in the beginning was the word, right? We talk about sound being the fundamental building block of the universe. NASA just released a tape not too long ago where, for a long time, sort of science said, there's, space is a void, there's silence. Well, they actually released a tape and it sounds like classical music. There is a frequency, there is a harmony. Every single planet has a sound to it. Some of it may not sound like a noise or a sort of what we would term music, but there is a sound, there is a vibration, a broadcast. The language of light is that overreaching. It is what I would term the kind of original language, yet it is very futuristic from where we are, yet it's also very ancient from where kind of the spaces and places where we are, ascended in our consciousnesses. It is the building block of all energy. It is the building block of who we are. And so in speaking that out loud and being able to call that energy into being, it's energy that is already there. It's latent within everybody. It is the spoken language of the symbols. And even beyond that, it's kind of like, how the Romance languages are all root, we have root languages of Latin, and then, we get the Romance languages, and then we get other languages branching off. That's, if you think of it in terms of that, this is like the original root language of consciousness, and this is that space and place where you open yourself up beyond the conscious mind to calling forth that part of you that knows everything. It opens you up to meeting that unmet self, that galactic self, that part of you that knows how to heal, that knows how to create, that knows how to transform, and it is in bringing that part of you into beingness that we begin to activate the energy within your symbol, which is again channeled specifically for you. I mean, I do. Every single person gets it's not like you get your own thing, and so from that, what I do, like I said, I look at a blueprint of your energy, and then whatever is channeled in, this is what comes in to begin to activate, change, and transform. And in many ways, it is the story of how you created the very thing you're wanting to create. So it instills and brings forth that blueprint from your own divine being and places that into your body, places that into your energy field, and begins to turn and tune your vibration, orient you towards creating what it is that you want, orienting you towards source energy. My hands are in the field while I'm talking, so some of you may feel really sleepy all of a sudden. I'm kind of helping tune you into what it is in your life that you would like to create, while also simultaneously starting to kind of activate the frequencies of the language of light within your being.
Amazing. Well, that is part of this. It's at uwealthrevolution.com/Jarrad12. And there's a bunch here. We're going to talk about a little bit more of the membership side, the community, but I want to take a quick pulse. What are the big questions you all have? How can we serve you? How can we love you? Many of you know about the program, and so certainly we don't need to necessarily keep going through it, but for a lot of people, there's questions like, how do I release debt? How do I find out my soul purpose? Can this help with that? Let's talk about some of those things, because soul purpose or, financial situations, a lot of people dealing with. Yeah. What does this have to do with maybe those two areas?
Yeah, so like earlier where we were talking about release, that's one of the big things because we want to dive in, like for example, for finance. Some of you, I've shared my story before. When I was in sort of resistance about who and what I was and how I was supposed to do it, I was about $90,000 in debt. Everybody around me was just kind of saying, claim bankruptcy, go back to school, start over. I didn't want to. I didn't want to do that. I knew, but I had to dig myself into that hole so that I had no turning back. So that it was kind of like, well, you know what? I got nothing to lose other than loss. So now I'm going to go be who I am. And it was the finance opened up for me when I opened up to really opening up to who I am and the video that I've got, and there's also an audio of it and a symbol that goes with it, but it's the universal source self video and journey. And what that does is it opens you up to that space and place where you are, let's say, open to the new potentials, open to the new possibilities. It opens you up to the space and place of understanding money is not about control, like I said earlier. And this is one of the things that we talk about and throughout the program. If you have a specific question, well, this is what's going on in this area of my life, I can give you, well, this is the belief system, this is what we're doing. But overall, it's about learning that money is expressive. And so many of us use money to control, whether we use it to control others or control ourselves, or whether it's to feel controlled by somebody else. That's a big one that a lot of people use it with. And politics is another place that presses that button where we either feel controlled or we feel like we need to control. And so as we release those things, we're not releasing the need to control or we're not releasing any of those things so that we can forever be, caught in that web. We're releasing it. That's why I was talking about surrender earlier. We are letting go of the attachment so that we can begin to tune our vibration into creating what we want. And so through the universal self-source symbol, that is opening you up to the abundance of who you are beyond your story, and that literally alternates the current between sort of the hemispheres of the brain, aligning you, recharging the electromagnetic pulse within your being and how you create the light. That then opens you up to new potentials and new possibilities so that you can create that. There are some specific things in here. For example, on the membership side, I've got an exercise that somebody already won the lottery. They said they always buy tickets, they never win, and they bought 3 the other day and won on 2 of them. There's a little exercise that I put up there where you can do every single day, and it's one of the things that I do to create, and it's very simple, but it simply teaches you to become in tune with your feelings, and it's all about the feelings are the gasoline in your engine of manifestation, but so many times we don't want to feel, we want to create from the mind, and so one of the things that the program does is it helps you begin to expand your mind and release yourself from the mind. It kind of in a way blows the mind so that you begin to understand who you are and orient yourself to who you are in a way that helps you create a little bit differently. That for those of you that are looking at actual money and things like that, the rewiring the brain for conscious creation, that is rewiring your brain. When I say conscious creation, that is so that, okay, I want to have a new house, or I want to be able to, pay my bills. I want to be able to create this. That is rewiring you and opening you up to all of the spaces and places within your own energy so that you are comfortable being in your power and comfortable creating. There's an interesting dynamic of kind of the old we'll call it the victim template, where, and I was in it and didn't even know it, where a lot of us want to create something, but we have I don't want it and I want it at the same time. And so we're holding ourselves in this interesting space where we're constantly kind of a victim of our own. It's like we keep tripping over ourselves, or we keep tripping over the world, and this is a space where we begin to clean all of that out so that you can actually begin to lay your path out, and then I teach you how to go out and actually consciously create what it is you're wanting to do. So while some of these sound like they're a little bit more woo-woo, like, for example, there's creating reality with the golden pen, that is all about happiness, and it's all about learning how to be in the moment of right now because, again, as I said, the moment of right now, so many times we don't want to acknowledge right now because we go, well, I'm in debt right now. Like, this is my story. So I'm in debt right now. I don't want to acknowledge the debt. I'm not in debt. I'm not in debt. I'm not in debt. But all I'm focusing on is the debt. And I've joked with you before. It's like if you cut off your arm with a samurai sword in your living room, you're not going to go, I didn't do that. I didn't do that. I am love. Oh, I have an arm. My arm is beautiful. You're going to pack your arm on ice, and you're probably going to call a doctor, and you're going to have somebody who knows how to help you reattach that arm so that you can then go through the experience of, your own process of healing, but you're going to reach out and you're going to acknowledge, oops, I did this, and I need to do something so that I can create what I want, which is to have my arm back on my body. And so the creating reality with the golden pen is all about being in the moment of right now, because that moment of right now is the only moment you can create in. You can't create in the past. You can't create in the future. All of your power is right now. So a lot of us have so much resistance to what's going on right now, we sidestep it at every single chance we get. So this immediately, the program starts to put you in that space, and you begin to learn, okay, well, I'm here. Oh, well, it didn't change. Some of the stuff that I thought I was fighting and holding up, well, I stopped pushing it. It's still there, but I've got all my energy back. I'm not pushing it. Wow, now I see where I have all this extra energy where I can actually start creating what I do want. And so then we go into a deeper exploration of how to create. So when we talk about the multidimensionality, again, it's as above, so below. So I'm not working like at this out there woo-woo level. We're also beginning, and there are 3 different classes that are within this program as well, that really look at what it is to be in the physical process of creation. It's kind of like going, I'm going to think about a house and I'm going to feel about a house. It feels so good. There's a point in the process at which it's time to pick up the axe, chop down the wood, or, get the material, whatever you're going to do, and build that house. And a lot of times we start the energy work, we get into energy work because we've been so blocked, yet we forget that at some point action enters the equation. What we're doing is we're opening you to the point of inspiration so that action is fun and action is consistent and action is inspiration, and it's not draining you any longer, and that you feel called to that action, and that action gives you purpose and joy in your life, so that everything begins to align so that you can actually consciously create everything that you want. And as we do that, we also begin to expand your relationship with the universe and with God and with yourself.
Yeah. Simply beautiful. So much here, and it's a very, very deep package, and certainly has been our most popular package this season for people really wanting life transformation in a lot of different areas, abundance, more joy, finding life purpose, really getting supported through this time. And many of you have taken a look. Many of you are going deeper. We've also added, because of the popularity and because of people just saying, hey, I want a little bit of help making this more affordable, a payment plan. You can pay in 2 installments as well. So each installment is $150. And for those of you going deeper, you're going to get it 91% off. The total value of this, or the regular price without the discount, would be $3,427. It's $297, or 2 installments of $150. And I'll share this too for people that go deeper between now and Sunday at midnight. You'll get Eliminating Genetic Beliefs and the White Diamond Energy Journey free. Those were expired. We've actually revived those. So if you were waiting for any reason or just not sure, just kind of wanting to see what's going on, these will be available again. So you've got a few days to pick these up. And I've heard it said, you'll say this is your fan favorite, one of them, the White Diamond Energy Journey. And so that is available. Jarrad, I know we've gone a little bit long. I want to just take a moment and just really plug in. A lot of people writing in with some amazing comments. A lot of people asking, a lot of different things. 1 second. Wow. Interesting things going on. Another person saying, wow. One person just wrote in and said, one of the biggest things about Jarrad's work has done for me is it's opened me up to love by redefining my 3D definition of love to a more expanded definition and releasing my fears around being loved and loving others and myself. I have a new creation of love in my world and universe from this. It's helped me enjoy and trust immensely. Very, very cool. Jarrad, really quick, I mean, as we're here and we're plugging in, people connecting, anything else you want to share just about this or today's call or kind of where we're at right now that people might need to know?
Yeah, I would just say we're always kind of a moment of choice. Right now is a very large moment of choice collectively, and I know a lot of you are experiencing that within your personal life. So it's just a matter of, what is it you want to create? And whether it's with me or whether it's in your own life, just know that whatever it is you focus on, whatever it is, the people you surround yourself with, the sort of think of life like a soup. Start looking at the ingredients that you're putting in your soup, because that's what you're going to get for your meal. And so, and I would say to those of you that are wanting to go forward, we're going to have an amazingly awesome, transformative, just really cool, powerful. You're going to feel connected to people that you didn't even know existed on this planet. We're going to be doing some things. You're going to find out things about yourself that you never thought you would find out. You're going to experience things you never thought you would experience. So if you're wanting to open up, if you're ready to open up, and we can do it in small ways, we can do it in large ways. I do what I do on this call. That's what we do. I bring it every single day. I bring all of it. I don't leave any of it off the table, and I let everybody else say, today maybe I want a salad, or today maybe I want, pizza and a steak and a hot dog, or today I want the vegan buffet. But I bring all of it, and there's always the choice. And so it's about, and that's why I pack the packages, because I know different people are at different places, and this is things that you're going to have for the rest of your life. You're going to have the calls. We're going to record everything. You can copy the blogs and the comments if you'd like. You can have your own kind of little scrapbook of what we do, and you can have this energy and this support and this love to carry with you that really help you balance and create what it is you want to create for the rest of your life, because that's what you're here for. You're here to create, you're here to love, and you're here to be supported. And so that's what we do in these programs. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, I love it. Well, a lot of people have already gone forward, and a lot of people plugging in, and certainly that is the thing about today, and all the calls we do is just bringing you into love and helping you. And so whether you go deeper or not, just know one of the big things that's come forward in this series of calls that we've done is that you matter, and what you truly want, your desires, your joy matters. Your joy matters to the world and matters to the future of the planet, because when you're in that joy, when you're being what you truly are, everything shifts. Everything comes into your field of attraction that you truly want. When you're being something you're not, or plugging into energies that aren't you, you're going to bring in a lot of that stuff that isn't you. You're going to be sourcing from those places that aren't you. And this is about finding out what that is. And for some of you, you may not even know. Make it a November to remember, no matter which way you decide to go. Just love yourself enough to believe that your joy truly matters. And Jarrad, I'll let you have the final say here as we begin to close out this amazing call. I'll also remind people is at youwealthrevolution.com/Jarrad, JARRAD12, and you can find out more about November to Remember and much, much more that's going on there. It's a huge, huge amount of things that will truly, truly keep you supported and busy and in just a state of a vibrational expansion all during November, which promises to be a very interesting vortex. And as you said, giving us the opportunity to choose different new realities. And humanity is choosing. And for a lot of people, Jarrad, I think the challenge with November is some of that choice may be driven by fear and some of the up and down that humanity may be going through right now. And we certainly don't want that to be the case for anybody here.
Yeah, and that's why I kind of use that soup analogy. It's kind of like what you focus on is what you get, and what you're bringing into your reality is what ultimately you're bringing it in because you're resonating with it at some point. So the good news is, if you're on this call, some part of you is resonating with the love and the support that Darius and I are bringing. I joke a lot of times. My little sister is a psychologist, and I joke that I think it's funny that she's got people that spend $250 a week on therapy, and I joke and say, well, they just need to do one of my programs and they'd be set. But I really do believe that, because what we do here is so transformative, and we really do open you up to, it's not just, it's not a gimmick. It's not, 3 weeks in and out, kind of, listen to the downloads, go away. It really is about personal attention. Anybody that's ever done one of my programs can tell you it really is about the one-on-one attention and the relationships you make with people on the membership site, and, being able to ask questions, being able to feel seen, being able to feel heard. I have people all the time that write me and say, the moment I heard you speak my name on the activation, I started crying, just because I couldn't believe that somebody would take the time out to just simply, spend that time looking at me and seeing me. And so we really are at a point in consciousness, and that there's no fear or pressure to it. It's just, what is it you're wanting to create? And this is a wonderful opportunity to step in and align with some really, and it's even beyond me. This isn't about me. This is about the universe. This is about source, God, whatever you want to call it. I joke and said, it's just words. We come up with the words, but it's the intention behind the words. And it's whatever you're wanting to open up in your own life. This is a wonderful opportunity to begin planting that seed and exploring it and doing something that will be with you forever. That's why I call it November to Remember, because it really is my goal to create something for you that you do remember forever, even beyond the pale of this lifetime. You can look back and go, that was a huge transformational point for me, because that was the space where I began seeding into my reality and creating my reality with all of these new wonderful things and these new wonderful tools. So that's my goal. So if you're ready, and you wouldn't be on this call if you weren't, come join us. Come have a good time. And like I said, I opened, I think on the thing it says the 8th. The 8th is actually when we officially start, but I've already opened up the membership site. It's already there. So matter of fact, once I get off the call, I know I've already got some questions over there I need to go answer. But we're already forming our group. We're already getting everything together. So, come mingle. We'll have our kickoff call next week, and then we're going to really get into it. And I'm sending the symbols out as quickly as I can do them, and I am almost caught up. So my goal is that by this weekend, I will be completely caught up with everybody who will have sent in their request. So the quicker you get in the request, the quicker you get it, and they're fun. I would encourage you to go look at the page or check out some of the testimonials, because you'll see just how amazing people have experiences. And a lot of times it's people who go, I never felt energy, or what, and then they go, oh my God, I get it. So it's fun. And so whatever you do, though, just know that as we enter into this time, there are some sort of ebbs and flows in the consciousness coming up. So do whatever you can do for you to stay in trust and in love, because those vibrations are what you will begin to create on the outside. The outside will mirror that. And the more you can stay in love and harmony and begin to transmute any of the places and spaces you plug in, the more you will begin to create that reality forming around you, and you'll bring in people and places to begin validating that and to help you expand with that.
I love it. Thank you, Jarrad. I want to share, too, really quick. Ruth Jean had a question about the symbol, and we forwarded it over to our team. So if you're writing in, if you're in the program, you've got questions, we're supporting you, we're watching. So Ruth Jean in Temecula, we've got you covered. And everyone else, if you have any questions, let us know. We're here to love you and honor you. And I know it was a transformative call today. I've got so many different comments coming in from people. I'm kind of wonky, as you guys can tell. So I'm going to sit and just kind of balance the energies. And we love you. And Jarrad, thanks again, my friend. Incredible session as usual. And thank you for bringing in some of those higher energies. Even though my phone didn't go wonky, my computer crashed, but I think my brain kind of crashed too. So it's good. It's going to integrate, and I'm going to be at a much higher place.
I just got a text from the office that said we're sleepy.
We're sleepy. Yeah, amazing. Amazing.
Well, thank you, everybody. Thanks, Jarrad, for having me, man. It was really wonderful. I appreciate you.
Wow. Well, that is Jarrad Hewett. He's on. We're going to continue to plug in and let this start to download. And I always share for all of you here, plug in, just plug into the calls, plug into the vortex of what we're doing, whether it's just listening in or whatever. We're shifting the space, and you can feel that yourself if you kind of check into where you were before the call, maybe, and where you were sourcing your energy from. It might be current events, might be conversations with people, might be, unfortunately, sometimes things that have aggravated you in your day, and you're kind of like, that really set me off, and where are you now? If you are feeling a little wonky, that's okay, because wonky usually is not sourcing from low energy. That's usually frustrated, drained, angry, stressed. Wonky is like, whoa, my whole field is being adjusted. My whole field is being reset. My whole circuitry is being rewired, and my body doesn't know what to do. My current, consciousness grid program that I'm operating on doesn't know where to source its grounding or its vibration from, and what do I do? So what we can do is just put our feet on the ground right now, and we can just allow our feet to anchor as this new energy comes in. And I'll just take people through this because I feel it's important. Just put your feet on the ground if you're in a place to do so, and just allow these feet to just go all the way straight down to Mother Earth, all the way to the center of the core. Just let it go all the way down. Just feel that start to ground in. And we'll just stay at the level of feet down below. We're not gonna go up through the crown, because we're getting a lot already from that space coming in. So just ground, and just know if you're feeling that wonkiness or that shift or just that openness or sort of that space where everything is just sort of more malleable and as Jarrad has said, kind of fluid and solid, kind of fluid, right? Then that's all new energy coming in. And so now you're sourcing from a whole other space, and your body doesn't necessarily know what to do. Your consciousness is expanding so quickly that it's kind of like taking you out of your existing space. So just be there. That's what's going to be happening quite a bit in November. And from here, this new space now, what do? now we can begin to put into that what we really want to create and hear the new ideas, the new possibilities, the new vibrations, the new ways that we show up in the world can come through, and we can bring these in every day and create from this space, and that's really what it is. So it's okay. It's good. This is the space that we want to get out of the old patterns, the old frameworks, and we did it for you today. So enjoy it. Be safe. Don't go driving or anything like that until you're grounded. Center into the earth, feel into your heart. We love you, we honor you, and I thank you for being here at You Alter Evolution today. If you want to go deeper with November, to remember, Jarrad is doing personal symbols and spending a lot of time creating a personal language of light recording activation that you're going to have for life. So youalterevolution.com/Jarrad, Jarrad 12, and those bonuses are reopened as well between now and Sunday at midnight. Much love. We'll see you on the next UL session. Bye, everyone.